Diego Pavia's problem-solving and leadership skills could get Vandy over the hump against the Hokies.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Game prep is underway. The energy has been great at practice. As the Doors focus on Virginia Tech, they will have to figure out how to stop an experienced offense led by Caleb Drones. How are they going to attack this talented Hokie defense? However, the quarterback must be the problem solver and must be the leader to get Vandy over the hump. And I'm talking about Diego Pavia. Now, what makes that statement true? Okay, so Clark Lee said this in preparation for this. He said, we've talked about all the positions, and certainly quarterback is one of them. It is singular, the most important position on the field. The offense runs through the quarterback. He's got to be the problem solver and the coach on the field. He's also a leader in your locker room. We've definitely given the attention it needs, and across the field, we're going to give this team what it needs for game week. Now, what that means, I'll leave this quote up here for a little bit, okay? So why is it that Diego Pavia's intangibles are going to help them get over the hump? Because when all else fails, I think physically, schematically, I think you have to kind of get the guys through that. But it's going to be the adversity that this team is going to face that's going to get them through that. Now, an example of a quarterback leading his team through adversity, albeit this example is an NFL preseason game, but if you watch Drake May in his matchup, in his game against the Commanders, he had a ton of adversity, right? But he had the poise, he had the patience, and he led his team down on a touchdown drive. It's going to be things like that when you're faced with a bad snap that puts you at 1st and 15 from the 4-yard line in the shadow of your own goalpost. Like, it's things like that, right? Problem solver. How do I get myself out of this? Well, Drake May used his legs to get them moving. There was another bad snap later on in the drive. He recovered it, solve that problem. He's a leader. Okay. So you got to be a problem solver. You've got to get through what adversity is hitting you, right? Because everybody, all 10 eyes in that huddle are looking at you. All 10 other offensive players on the field, if you're in no huddle, whatever, they're looking at you. It runs through you. That's how the quarterback position goes. And for them, it's going to be Diego Pavia having that cool, calm demeanor, not panicking when something goes wrong. Receiver drops a pass. Hey, that's all right. We'll get you next time. And he can be upset about it, and rightfully so. He has every right to be. But if he wants to get the best result possible, that calm demeanor, that problem solving, hey, let's figure out how we can get this catch the next time. That's where you get the iPads on the sidelines. That's where you have those conversations, sometimes those tough conversations, right? You get your quick tackle, Gunnar Hansen misses a block in protection. All right, let's fix it. Okay, that's the mindset you got to have. It's not point, which I think happened a lot last year in self-destruct. It's that problem. It's those problem-solving skills that I think will set him apart. And I think that's how he got through this quarterback competition, because the adversity that he faced early on in camp was that Nate Johnson was balling out, but he stayed with the course. He started to problem solve. He was getting himself through these adverse situations and getting the team out on the other side. That's how he took command of the offense. Now, going back to the quote, coach on the field. This is where honestly that, Pavia is going to help this offense, right? He's got to get those guys coached up, with the film room, in the film room, on the practice field, and during the game. It's all in one. You have to know, and he has to help those guys get lined up, get in their proper breaks, get their proper route depth, talk to the offensive line about blocking what they're supposed to be blocking up, getting the coverage right, all of that stuff. He's got to be an extension of Jerry Kill and Tim Beck. He's got to be an extension of Clark Lee with his demeanor, with the way he communicates, things like that. He's got to be an extension of those guys if he wants to have a chance of getting Vandy over this hump, because they can win this game. Vandy can most definitely win this game. There's no question about it. They can win this game. And with that being said, it's going to take some of these intangible qualities to get them over that mental hump, because talent-wise, physically, talent-wise, they're pretty good. They match up. I mean, they don't have quite the experience coming back together that Virginia Tech does, but mentally, they're not there. Talent-wise, they've got seven seniors on watch lists. They've got a freshman preseason All-American. They've got some talented dudes. They've got some receivers that can do a lot of different things. It's not whether or not they can do it. It's whether or not they believe that they can do it. It's mental. And that's where these intangibles come. The problem solving, the leadership, right? Coach on the field. Like you've got to be that guy that gets them into the situations that they need to be into. They're the ones that, hey, you make a mistake, forget about it. We got to move on. We can't dwell on the mistakes, right? You can't let the mistakes pile up. And to have a good problem solver is just doing that. Instead of worrying about the problem, you are working towards a solution to that problem. You're working on fixing that problem, whether that happens the next series or whether that happens on down the road in like the third, fourth quarter, right? What made Georgia Tech so good against Florida State? They fixed the problems. They had a really good first drive. Florida State adjusted, gave them some adversity, actually went score for score with them. They fixed the defense, fixed what they needed to fix, and they made plays down the stretch. They problem solved. All right. Haynes King problem solved. He knew his limitations. He knew what he was up against. He problem solved, right? They fixed their issues and they exploited Florida State up front, right? Because they got right. They got in a good mental capacity. All right. Leader in the locker room, right? He's the guy that's rallying the troops. Okay. That's where he comes in. Like these are the things that get you over the hump in a game to where not a soul on this planet thinks you can win, except for hopefully the guys in the locker room, right? And I'm sure everyone has been in situations where you buy into the noise. You hear the noise. A good quarterback, a good leader in the locker room, as it says here in the quote, will help you ignore that. Okay. And then all that attention, of course, is that's all going to be laid out during game week. And we're going to see kind of just how his preparation is. He is quarterback one. They've not come out and said that. They've been kind of coy about that, which is, I don't know, kind of interesting strategy in and of itself. But we all know Pavia is quarterback one. We all know that now it's his turn. It's his team. Now he's got to do something with it. I mean, we know he's the starter. Just go ahead and name it because he's on the captain's list. Like just go ahead and tell everybody. But he's the leader in the locker room. He's the guy that's pumping these guys up. He's the guy that's making sure that when they read that we're 13.5-point favorites and you're seeing score predictions like Vandy's going to lose 38-17, or they're going to get 50-pieced, or it's going to be a Hokie sellout in First Bank Stadium. When people are reading all that stuff, it takes a hell of a leader to be able to take all of that information and say, you know what? Don't worry about it. We got this. You execute your job. We got this. You do your job, right? And not to sound like a Belichick record here, but you do your job. You do it well. We got this in the bag. This is a winnable game. This is a game that you can win. This is an impressive game that you can win, okay? Virginia Tech is good, and we'll talk more specifically about how good they are, right? And throughout the week, we'll get into more and more specifics on different matchups and, different players to watch out for and how to attack those guys. But, just generally speaking, we're going to, it's all up here. The gist of it is all up here. And Diego Pavia, being the leader of this offense, has got to be an extension of his coaching staff and has got to be able to relay those messages. He's got to be able to get people to ignore the noise, and he's got to be able to problem solve. And by problem solving, meaning getting people in the right positions to succeed and to showcase their talent and to showcase their strengths and be able to put themselves in positions to succeed versus just pointing the finger and letting things fall apart, which is what's happened in the past. I think that's why the team was the way they were last season. And Clark Lee just kind of let it unravel and couldn't really do much about it. So, but this offense is going to have its hands full. This Virginia Tech defense, just looking at it from afar, just looking at it as a whole, it's a pretty talented defense. So how are they going to attack this defense? It's going to be tough, but they can do it. We'll talk about it next. Well, we can't talk about it without a nice little shot of a 5-hour energy. Listen here. Have you ever wanted to get in shape but have trouble staying motivated? Well, make 5-hour energy shots part of your lifestyle and get the energy boost you need to get fit. We all know you sometimes do not want to go to the gym, but take a 5-hour energy shot to give you the feeling and alertness so you can get to the gym, right? You need to know that 5-hour energy is the brand hardworking people like you have trusted for over 20 years to give them alert, energized feeling that they need to get through a busy, hectic day. You always know where to find a 5-hour energy shots right at the cash register at nearly every convenience, drug, and grocery store nationwide. So stock up on money-saving multi-packs and make sure you never run out of delicious, energizing 5-star. They're definitely 5-star rated, but energizing 5-hour energy shots. So if you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5, hourenergy.com, and get some 5-hour energy product today, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. That's the number 5, hourenergy.com today. All right. Welcome back. It is the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. Did you know that college football is back and it's not too late to catch up before the season kicks off? SEC, ACC, Big 10, Big 12. You can get it all from the Locked On stable of college experts by subscribing to the Locked On College Football Podcast. Who has a chance to make the playoff? Is it Virginia Tech, like Pat McAfee says? What team will cause chaos in their new conference? Everything you need to know is all in one place. Be sure to follow and subscribe to the Locked On College Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Shout out to you everydayers. I love it. I love that you guys are making this your first listen each and every day. Make sure you check out Locked On SEC as also another listen that you can partake in, because that is a good show too, and you should know that. So Chris Gordy does a phenomenal job there. But anyway, looking at Virginia Tech, okay, because this is a very interesting team. Okay, this is a very, very interesting team when you kind of break down just how they are and what they bring to the table. Because this defense, this team overall is loaded. They bring back 20 starters on both sides of the ball, so that's pretty much everybody. All right, this defense was second ranked in the ACC overall. It was one of the best in the nation at getting into the backfield, right? So you've got guys, this defensive front is as talented as you can get. Antoine Powell-Ryland, he's a star pass rusher. He's somebody that you have to really account for. So I think being able to manipulate him in coverage, not in coverage, but in pass protection, matching him up with your quick tackle as much as you can will help slow him down a little bit. The reads, the RPO stuff, things that can neutralize him at the point of attack and where he's not pinning his ears back and coming to get you. You have Aeneas Peebles and Kelvin Gilliam in the interior. So running the ball, I think, is going to be very, very tough for Vandy. They're going to have to get creative in how they get things going in the run game, which I think is where quarterback runs, misdirections, things like that will help get them through. If you really want a good example of what they can do, I said this yesterday and I'll say it again, watch what Georgia Tech did against Florida State. I say that because it's a similar situation. Georgia Tech has some talented guys, but like you wouldn't really say as a whole that offense is dangerous or potent or, you know, when you look at just pure talent, like you would look at Florida State's defense, you would look at Georgia Tech's offense on paper and say, Florida State should have their way with this offense. And at times they did. At times they were successful. And you were just like, okay, well, Florida State's finally settling in. Well, what Georgia Tech did, they adjusted, they did some things, but motions, shifts, misdirection, things like that really kind of gave this Florida State defensive line, which is the strength of their team, really gave them a lot of fits. And so they were able to attack them they were able to attack them in the run game and neutralize a really good defensive front by motioning, by shifting. Like one play where they bring, I call it escort motion, but they bring the H-back as a wide receiver. They bring him in motion and they time it up to where when he gets to the tackle, he just turns into the second puller on counter. Whew, that was beautiful. That was a thing of beauty. I could see that. I could see something like that. You have Cole Spence doing a similar thing because you gotta respect him as a weapon out wide. So you bring him in, you motion him in, and you pull him. Cedric Alexander gets in behind him, big 6'7" dude. Not Cedric Alexander, but Cole Spence. Cedric Alexander gets in behind him, pops out. Next thing you know, he's on the second level, and off you go. Because the secondary is the weakest part of this Virginia Tech defense. So the linebackers are great. They're loaded with guys. Kelly Lawson is coming back, as well as the transfer Sam Brumfield from Middle Tennessee, where he racked up a 1.5 million tackles for the Blue Raiders. So the defensive line and the linebackers are absolutely loaded for this team. And that's where a lot of your experience is coming back. And I don't know if you're counting starters for other teams as actual returning starters, but if you are, they're extremely loaded up front. So running the ball is going to be very tough. We know that. Okay. But again, motions, misdirections, options, RPO, things like that is going to help alleviate some of this pressure in the running game and help you get things going the way you need or want them to, right? The way you attack this defense, the secondary was last in interceptions. They led the conference in pass defense, and a lot of that was probably due to the fact that they were getting incredible pressure on the quarterback, and these contested throws were unsuccessful. So the pass rush, again, was a big factor in that. But you have to find ways to give yourself time to attack this secondary. Quick passes are a good thing. Knowing where to go, getting checked into the right plays, getting checked into the right protections, moving the pocket, things like that will help kind of get the quarterback set up in a good position to be able to attack this defense. Now, if you can get the ball out, which I would advise getting it out quick. I would advise tempo, quick game to go along with your runs. And getting quick game through RPO is also really, really good because you can exploit these guys, throw hitches out there, throw slants, make these corners tackle you because they don't want to. And they're not going to be a team that's going to make a ton of plays on the ball if it's a well-delivered ball or if it's a well-delivered contested 50-50 ball even. I don't see these corners making plays on those. They kind of feast on bad throws that are caused by Virginia Tech getting pressure on the quarterback. But I think if the quarterback has time or a clean pocket or can get out on the edge on a sprint out or a boot, then I think you're going to be in trouble because you have a quarterback that can run with Diego Pavia. You have options at wide receiver that can take short passes into big gains. I don't know if you have anybody right now that is in tune enough or has chemistry enough to make a house call out of a short pass, but I think you do have people that can really put pressure on this secondary. And we'll talk more about just how the secondary looks, but just kind of overall, run game is going to have to rely on formation shifts. Patience is probably going to be the biggest key with the run game because you're not going to get a whole lot early, and that's fine. You're just going to have to kind of work through that and slog through that. You're going to have to almost do exactly what you don't want to do, which is pass to run, which, RPOs count as pass to run, which is not too much of a stretch from the run game. It's just a portion of the run game. It's like running triple option, but instead of pitching it, you're throwing a stick concept. So whatever the case is, those are the things you have to do. And we'll talk more in depth about those things on future episodes. But this defense is going to have its hands full. This is a very talented offense. You get a quarterback that is going to be outstanding in Caleb Drones. So I like the way this team is constructed, but it's not impossible. It's not impossible. We'll talk about that next. All right. Hey, Locked On Vandy fans, I want to take a moment to give you a heads up on a brand new mobile game that I think you're going to love as much as I do. Ultimate College Football Head Coach. In this amazing game and simulation, you get to step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football program to glory. Can you actually imagine being the head coach of Vandy? Well, from recruiting players and hiring coaching staff to overseeing training camps and handling scholarships, you control every crucial detail of the program. It's all in your hands. Will you be able to handle that pressure? Be honest. And here's what I really love about the game. You're responsible for calling all the offensive plays during the game. Your strategy will not only determine the success of your football season, but will shape the future and legacy of your program. Ultimate College Football Head Coach is completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline. You can play on the go, as you want, and when you want to. And of course, we have a special offer for you Locked On Vandy fans. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Make sure to take advantage of this perk as it will get your team off to a strong start. To download the game, just visit ultimate-cfb.com. That's ultimate-cfb.com, or look it up in the app stores. Ultimate College Football Head Coach. Begin your coaching legacy today. All right, welcome back. We're wrapping up here on the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. Again, make sure you check out Locked On SEC. Make sure you check out Locked On ACC if you want an idea of what Virginia Tech brings to the table. I'm sure the guys at Locked On ACC, after they're done going on and on and on about the Georgia Tech win, they will turn their attentions now to week one, which they have their hands full with Clemson and Virginia Tech, among others that have big matchups this week in that conference. But you can check them out as well. I'm sure they'll look into this game a little bit as we get closer. So the golden question is, right? We looked at how the offense will attack. Now, how is the defense going to stop this talented, experienced offense led by Caleb Drones? How's that going to happen? Well, when you look at what this offense is good at, I think that's the first thing you got to do is look at what they're good at. But it's Kyron Drones, not Caleb Drones. What is it? Where am I getting Caleb Drones from? Anyway, Kyron Drones looks more like an edge rusher playing quarterback. He's a force, man. He really is a force. I don't know where I was getting Caleb Drones. But Kyron Drones is Caleb Drones is probably a hell of a quarterback in his own right. He's probably really good, but Kyron Drones, he is a star, dude. He is he can do it all. He's a big body, just leader of this offense. Comes back with a year of experience. He's the unabated starter now. He's going to be a special guy. So He threw 17 touchdowns and just 3 interceptions last year. He almost was a 1,000-yard rusher as well. What is it about Virginia Tech having extremely explosive, dynamic running quarterbacks? What is it about the Hokies in that, right? There's some guy named Michael Vick that was pretty good for the Hokies a few years ago. He was decent, but they have some good stuff there. He has to get a little bit more consistent with his completion percentage. I think he was hitting on a lot of big plays, but I think that's going to be easier with him not feeling the pressure of a quarterback battle, him being able to have more consistency and chemistry with his receivers, right? And I think that's the name of the game. You have Daquan Felton and Jalen Lane coming back after combining for they had 80 catches and 14 touchdowns between them. Allie Jennings coming from Old Dominion as well. He presents a deep threat, and he missed all of last year with injury, but he's back now. And then Nick Gallo as well, coming back from injury, is going to be outstanding at tight end. So they have this weapon. They have these weapons, right? The ground game, by Shul Tootin, he's the leading rusher. He almost was 1,000 yards as well. You could tell this is kind of a 50-50 quarterback. The run game is kind of 50-50 between the running backs and the quarterback. You have all 5 starters back on the offensive line, which is absolutely massive, pun intended. And so you have an offense that can be really, really potent. An offense that was not real consistent last year. They scored the most points in the season since 19, returns a slew of key players. But they have to be more consistent. Like I said, they were all over the place, man. They were, at some points you looked at them, you're like, what is this? And then sometimes you look at them, you're like in the Military Bowl against Tulane, what they did to Tulane is illegal in most countries. It was awful, and they were phenomenal in that game. They were, but and then some, it's just got to be more consistent for them. And I think with Virginia, with an offense that's like that has a lot of firepower coming back, in order to stop all of that. Defensively, at first is getting Kyron Drones. It says Caleb Drones. I'm sorry. But Kyron Drones, getting him off his spot, off his rhythm, getting pressure in his face, knocking him down when you can, getting as many hits as you can on him, because he's going to be dangerous in the run game. Try to bottle him up, blow up blocking angles, cut off things, be a havoc-filled defense. I mean, what makes a dynamic run game slow down is punching holes in run lanes, is penetrating gaps, getting upfield, creating piles, making the runner, whether it's quarterback or the running back, making the runner have to stop their momentum to make a cut, have to stop their momentum to search for a run lane. Those type of things in the run game help. In the pass game, push the pocket, contain and push the pocket from the inside, close him in. Okay. Don't be in a hurry with your edge guys, and don't get beyond his deepest level, right? Keep him on plane with you, force him into that pocket, and then be able with your interior guys. Altara is going to be a solid piece here. He's going to be an X factor on this defensive line, because if he can push the pocket from the inside and those outside guys can contain and not be in a hurry to get drones down, then you're going to have a quarterback pressure system that's going to eventually collapse this Hokie offense. And that's kind of the key to just, because if Drones can't throw to his talented guys because he's under duress, he's getting hit, those hits take a toll. And sometimes, he may deliver a good ball and take a shot, but those take his toll, because the next throw he's anticipating that hit again. And the next throw, he may overthrow one because he doesn't step into it thinking he's about to get clocked. And so it's getting, again, up here, getting into the psyche of the quarterback by hitting him and getting him to doubt whether his protection is good enough or whether to doubt whether he's thinking and doing the right thing. It's going to come down to the key of it is going to come down to which quarterback's the better problem solver, which quarterback's going to get them right, because I think both defensive lines are very talented. I think scheme is going to be a big thing with scheme as well. I think you're going to see both defensive lines play extremely fast, play extremely aggressive. So it's going to be whichever quarterback can problem solve their way through and lead their teams, respective teams through the adversity. And so for Vandy, they have to create adversity snap after snap after snap, get turnovers, capitalize on all of these things. So, but anyway, the goal is to have Kurt Page on for our next episode. We're going to talk about matchups, specific matchups. Then we're going to cross it over with Locked On ACC, and then we're going to give you keys to the game and picks. Man, it's getting here. It's getting close. We love it. But we're going to leave you there. We're going to leave you with this, just a little mild preview, a little bit of what Virginia Tech has to offer. But I want to thank you for listening at Locked On Vandy on all social media platforms. Find me, man. Connect. Let's get it done. But until tomorrow, behave yourselves and anchor down.